What's going on, everybody? This is Jeff Hillen with Selling Stories, where we discuss the struggles, successes, and life lessons learned through sales and in sales. I want everybody to do me a favor. Think back to a time in their life where they thought it was really, really hectic or really, really crazy. Because Caleb Stiger, the guest I have today, may have you beat. You know, he's got a great family, he's got a great company he works for, and he's got a lot of community involvement. So Caleb Stiger, welcome to the show, Selling Stories, man.
Hey, Jeff. How you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely, real great. Actually, was able to connect with Caleb at a recent event in the community, and maybe you're like a mini celebrity. I don't know. I didn't see anybody ask for your autograph, but I'm sure there was a couple there.
No autographs.
So Caleb's in the insurance and business risk industry, and I wanted to start off by just asking him, man, Caleb, do you have a story that you can call to mind of where you either helped a business avoid a disaster or maybe have to recover through something that happened?
Yeah, absolutely. Being in the insurance industry, you're working with clients that place a high level of trust in you. Like they're placing, for me personally, I work on the business side, so I'm working with business owners on their insurance programs. So if something goes wrong, we want to make sure we have things structured in a way that is going to allow them to get back on their feet in a short amount of time, continue their business, continue to support their employees. So anytime we have claims, at the end of the day, that's what the clients pay for. So we want to make sure that's a good process for them, walk alongside them, make sure it's handled fairly and correctly. But, thinking about the ones that would have bigger impact, obviously the bigger claims where, we had a situation within the last 2 years, construction, local, family-owned business that goes way back in the community, suffered a really significant fire loss at their shop, their office, where I got a call Saturday morning, was out with my kids out in the backyard, just having a normal weekend, get a call from the business owner's cell phone, which is a little bit unusual. You get calls in the evenings and weekends, but took the call and, there was a significant fire at their facility, which really well-run organization, run a good operation. It was probably the last client that I was expecting that from, but my wife was able to kind of jump in, take the kids, you run out to the business, start to ask questions about what happened and sit down with the leadership team to start taking some next steps on it. Like, where do we go today, tomorrow? How do we get things to a point where we can be operational by Monday? So Stuff like that, where, it's an eye-opening experience. Obviously, you don't expect that as a business owner. You have insurance, but at the end of the day, you're hopeful that you're not going to have to use it in that capacity.
When you jump in the car and you're driving there, and again, I know you went to college, but these aren't necessarily scenarios that you get brought up, through your classes or through your exams. So, what's going through your mind as you're driving there? Are you calling your CEO? Are you trying to pull up their documents and figure out and make sure, like, hey, I know their coverages? Like, what's that process look like after you get that call and on your way out to their business?
Yeah, I think, the first thing is not an overreaction. It comes down to the trust, the relationship piece. People want to talk to somebody that's going to be under control, that can still give advice and not be, chaotic or playing into the chaos of a situation like that. So that's the main thing, is keeping composure, I think. And then from there, it's, all right, it is what it is. I would say on the way over there, you're kind of thinking, all right, maybe it's not as bad as it was originally said to me. Maybe in the chaos or the craziness, like there's some overreaction.
Yeah.
So you're thinking that in the back of your mind a little bit. But at the end of the day, when you show up there, these are people that are dealing with a stressful situation that you really just want to be there for them. You may not have all the answers or be able to step in and save the day, but the fact that you're present, you're showing up, you're listening, asking questions, kind of becoming a part of their team to an extent. I think that's how I would want to be treated if I was in that situation.
I think you brought up something that's important for people to reflect on. It's composure. And there's going to be situations, whether it's in sales or in business, that are going to stress you out. People are under stress. You may get clients that act out of turn from their normal character. There's people that you may think never going to curse at you, and they come at you with a word that you never thought you'd hear out of their mouth, and
Yeah.
you kind of look at them funny, like, did you just say that? I didn't think that was something that you would say.
Yeah.
And in this case, what you bring up, which is an important story for people to understand, like a family-owned business, I mean, in their mind, they might think we just lost everything.
Yeah.
And now they have employees on top of it that they have to worry about to, like you said, how to be operational on Monday. So having
Yeah.
people they can trust, stay composed, show up, be there for them, listen like you included, and just say, like, how can I help outside of the insurance side that you're running? What else do you need? If it's as simple as like, hey, let me go grab Dunkin' Donuts and bring coffee for people, or just be a human and make sure you understand, like you said, how would I feel in that situation? Well, I'd be pretty nervous, and if somebody gave me a cup of coffee, I would be like, thanks. Like, I would almost forget about what happened in that moment.
Right. Yeah, that's right. And we do try to do that too. I mean, we did that day, but in this community, there's so many people in situations like that jump into action and show up and just want to get to work and start helping out. So I think we bought a ton of pizzas for the crew that was working there that day, but they also had food lined up, at the table already from people that just want to help out in any way possible. But for us, that's what we're selling is trust, relationship. I mean, in the insurance industry, like a lot of industries, it's viewed a little bit like a commodity. People can hop online and get a cheap option and, go on with the rest of their day. But the way that we want to do business is we want to sit down, we want to ask good questions, we want to get to know who we're dealing with. And there's a chance after that maybe it's not even a good fit or they're looking for something different. And we're okay, taking a pass on that. So very much looking for clients that value advice. And it may not be the cheapest option at the end of the day, but situations like that where you have a significant claim, you want to know who you're dealing with. You want to know what the policy is going to provide for you and avoid any surprises at that time.
So why does somebody decide to do business with you? What do you believe are the reasons why they choose to do business with you? And also, what would a perfect client look like from your end?
Yeah. I think a perfect client is not so much like an industry or a size, but somebody that's going to value the advice that you're giving. So, we're pretty committed to meeting with all of our clients face to face, for however long it takes to ask good questions, understand what changes they have going on within their business. Insurance is changing, compliance, safety, all of that stuff is constantly changing. So we want to have that relationship where they're open and honest with us so we can give advice. And that kind of goes to the way that we sell. We want to provide options, talk about options, but our job is not to tell you what to buy or what not to buy. That's for, your leadership team, ownership team to make that decision. So an ideal client for us is just somebody that wants to take that time, have a relationship, get to know us, we get to know you, and can lean on us to help manage risk within their company.
I love that. And I think for people too, the reality is you want to have open lines of communication, but frankly, outside of renewals, you may not have day-to-day conversations with your clients all the time. One thing that I would recommend for people out there is find ways to provide valuable information when there isn't a situation you have to be in communication with them. So again, if there's a new safety policy that's put out there that may affect your client's business, you want to be the one telling them that information. You don't want your competitors sending them an email or sending them a flyer or stopping by their office and being like, hey, I'm not sure if your guys told you about this, but because when that happens, that's when you open up the door for like, hey, I don't know, I thought, Jeff was my guy. However, after I've had business with him for a couple of years, it seems, what, maybe I have seen him a lot less. Maybe he is out golfing like maybe I thought he was, right? So you got to be present when there's not anything critical there to make sure you're showing somebody you're providing value outside of just like renewal time.
Yeah, we've tried to think proactively with that. A big part of what we've done too is seminars, hosting on topics that are relevant to a lot of our clients. And that can take us to topics outside of insurance or safety. We've hosted client events for the topic of hiring or team building or building like the team culture that you want. We may not be the ones that are most equipped to share on that topic, but like we'll go out, find a consultant or a speaker that's going to engage, um, the group of people that we get together. And if it benefits our clients, if it makes them more successful in their business, then that's a benefit to us as well. So we tried to, it's one of the questions every time we sit down with our business owners is like, how can we help you? What topics are keeping you up at night? What's your biggest struggles? And from there, as a team, we try to be proactive with coming up with solutions.
Do you ever have a story of somebody that came up to you after a event like that and either shot you a message or thanked you personally because of why it resonated with them?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we do a lot of, just with our location, we do a lot with contractors. So the contracting world has changed a lot. There's a lot more paperwork to manage, contracts, risk transfer, stuff like that. So that's a seminar that we do pretty regularly, is the topic of contracts, which isn't the most exciting topic, but it's necessary and it brings value to our construction clients. So, we'll speak on the insurance topic. We'll have an attorney speak on the legal side. We'll have a accountant speak on the financial side. And we've gotten new opportunities through that because everybody's inviting their client list to learn about a topic that everybody's dealing with. And when you learn new things and you get sharper in the office on topics like that, people are attracted to that. And
Yeah.
had some people reach out to us to say, hey, I'm not getting this advice or counsel from my current insurance guy. Maybe it's time to meet up.
Yeah, and I would tell people, this podcast is a way that I can provide valuable and free information to end users for them to hear a variety of topics, a variety of stories. And if you can use something creative and unique in your own industry or something that resonates with prospects or clients. I had a guy before tell me he would write a handwritten letter to 50 prospects telling them why he wanted to do business with them. Seminars, again, you're bringing in different centers of influence of people that can affect their business in different ways. Be creative, be unique, and take some shots. And again, if it's free, it's a lot easier to ask somebody for something, be like, hey, all I need is your time. All I need is your support, and all I need is your advice. Like, hey, was this valuable, or what did you get out of it? And if you can do that, more times than not, people are going to show up.
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right.
So I brought up the topic of thinking of a time you were busy, and one of the things that really made me want to talk to you, Caleb, was faith, family, and work. And I know it's a challenge, especially nowadays. People look at like a balanced life, right? Like, how do you balance your life? So I wanted you to speak a little bit about that because of your family dynamic, as well as a lot of the things you're involved in the community.
Yeah, for sure. It is a challenge. It continues to be a challenge. We have 5 kids at home, busy. Kids are starting to get into school and sports and activities and stuff like that. So it's not perfect, but we've tried to balance that as best we can. We want the kids to be involved with stuff, but not be to a point where it's like every night we're running around, not eating dinner together, just kind of passing each other by. So it's definitely a fast pace. And there's different seasons where that's harder to manage than others. Work can be stressful, sales, managing people, growing the business, and then you go home and you're pouring into your kids, pouring into your wife. So it's a constant balance for sure. But your comment on faith, I mean, that's for us what kind of holds it all together, is like just getting back to that baseline of pursuing our faith, staying in the Word, trying to stay steady with that. If we're grounded in that area, like all of the challenges and struggles that come up, it doesn't mean that they're going to be easy, but we have something to cling to and not just survive those times, but look for opportunities to, thrive through that and continue pouring into the kids and pouring into your job and having the energy to do it.
Now, it's difficult because I know as a parent myself, you get to the point of like your breaking point some days where you just are like, I got to take a minute because I've hit my level. And no matter what you tell yourself, sometimes you just need your own peace. Do you guys have anything that works for you and your family to say like, hey, I need a tag out, or like, do your kids know like, hey, if Caleb or dad or whoever says this, like they're at their level?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my wife Lindsay deserves more tag outs than I do for sure. She's, we're in the summertime now, so she's at home with the five kids and managing that. So, yeah, I mean, continuing to pursue things that we're interested in. Everybody needs that. You need to get out, have your own time where you're just getting filled. Sometimes that can just be like silence. For Lindsay, she likes to run, get out, clears her mind, prayer time. That's really important to her. I still like to play basketball a little bit, get out, do sports, get together with friends, stuff like that. We've this summer we've really gotten into the Phillies. Probably started last year with the World Series run, but that's something that we do together as a family. If the younger kids go to bed, the three older kids and Lindsay and I watch a Phillies game and yeah, just hang out. Nothing too special, but you kind of find those things that are important to everybody, and it's important to give space and time for those.
No, that's cool. I know in my family, one thing that we struggle with is my wife works full time, I work full time, and you want the best for your kids. But in some instances, I felt like we were getting away from the end goal. Like they were getting too much, and they thought like, oh, if this breaks, well, dad'll just get another one, or
Yeah,
that was kind of the mentality. And it was like, wait a second, as a parent, that's not right. That's not what I want you to think of. So we started implementing like every month, giving them $5 to save, $5 to spend, and $5 to give to somebody else. And it was
yeah,
interesting because it went away from there like, hey, I want this to like, oh, like I want to give this to somebody, like I want them to have it. So I think
yeah,
taking that approach of like when things get hectic, it's like, all right, how can I take a step back from that and think like, am I doing the right thing for them right now? Or am
yeah,
I just giving them a screen to stay busy because I had a rough day and I need downtime? Or am
yeah.
I really engaged in what I need to be? So I wasn't sure if that's stuff that resonates with you or not.
Yeah, for sure. And that's hard. Like when you're tired, when you're having a long week at work, to have that energy and the focus and the drive to like continue pouring into your kids and teaching them lessons and teaching them the values that you want them to grow up with. That can be hard because you can only give so much. And for us, as our family has expanded, to the point of five kids, that's one of the things that we try to be real with each other about is there's less of us to go around to all of the kids. So like, where's our blind spots of things that we're not seeing or we're not addressing just because there's not enough time or there's not enough energy. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
it can be a challenge for
and,
sure.
and you chose, as a couple, I know you said you're led by your faith. So I want to talk, you guys decided to adopt. And I know for some people out there that are, either thinking about it or prayed about it or what have you, like what led you to decide that adoption was right for you? And what have you learned through your adoption that you would think would be valuable for other people?
Yeah. Um, so it's Lindsay and I have been married for it'll be 14 years this year. So it's always been something that we've discussed as an idea. Um, and we first started with foster care. So we worked through Kobe's Family Services in Lancaster, which is a great organization. They're very, very realistic when they're going through the classes of like, this is potentially what this could look like for your family. And, you can't fully be equipped for stepping into something like that, but I think they do a good job of walking alongside you and giving you the support that you need. So that's
Okay.
basically how it started was like, we had three birth children and decided that we wanted to venture into foster care where you start to get phone calls about kids that need a home for, a season. It may not be forever, but you're going to care for them and see where it goes. So that's what we first decided to get into with the idea that we would be open to adoption, but that wasn't necessarily the motive behind starting foster care was to
Okay.
adopt. Yeah.
And if you were giving somebody advice that was thinking about it, would you say maybe start with foster care as a way to figure out if that's really what you envision it being, or would that be not something you tell someone?
Um, no, I think the most important thing is just getting on the same page with your spouse. Like, if you're going to venture into that, it's going to be a group effort where you're going to have to support each other. You're going to have to be at a healthy spot between the two of you first. It doesn't mean perfect because no one's going to end up doing that if that's what your starting point is. But
Yeah.
I think getting on the same page there, and realistically, Lindsay and I had to work through some of the challenges, because somebody can arrive to that point where they're ready to do that before the other person, and that can present some challenges as well. Um, so yeah, absolutely, I agree in the mission of foster care, like stepping into supporting these kids through a season. But it can be a challenge too if there's kids coming in and out of your house. You get attached to them in a short amount of time, and that's not guaranteed that it's always going to be that way. So there's definitely some uncertainty there.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. And from a business standpoint, it's funny because the one word that I feel like all problems always stem from is communication. I think if
Yeah,
you look at a lot of aspects of your personal life, your business life, most things can be solved with good communication.
yeah,
And so it's interesting because again, your dynamic of you're going through foster care. Obviously, there was maybe some things that get dropped in your lap that were kind of spontaneous almost in a way, right? That you didn't have necessarily always time to plan out a lot. And I'm sure you dealt with situations that were less than ideal
yeah,
with some of the people that you were with, you dealt with, and some of the issues that they came.
mm,
But I think with customers, because I think about dealing with difficult customers. Sometimes like the communication piece is really the piece where it's like, wait a second, like you talked about an ideal client earlier.
yeah,
If you talk with the customer and say like, hey, like, what are your expectations from the relationship that you're trying to get out of this? Because,
right,
again, if you expect me to always answer every single call you make, I would love to, but that's unrealistic. I have
yeah,
other clients. If you
yeah,
think that, I can always turn things around in an hour, it's not that I don't want to. The intent would be to always get you what you want, but that's
yeah,
unrealistic. So
yeah,
again, I think communication and being willing to set boundaries with expectations is really critical in today's world,
yeah,
because people think because you have a cell phone that you're always available, and
yeah,
people just assume because they work at 11 o'clock at night or 4 o'clock in the morning that you should match that, and that's not always the easiest thing, especially with you have a big family or things you have to do.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And that's the I think the exciting part of sales. On the business side with what I do is getting to know your client, what's important to them, how do they make decisions? Is it truly price based? Is it relationship? Is it spending time with them? How they make decisions? That's one of the biggest challenges, but it starts with listening, asking good questions. And I always say, like, with the other people that are getting into sales for the first time, like some of the best meetings that I've had or the most effective with getting new clients is the meetings that I talk a lot less than what the prospect talks.
Yeah.
Uh, Ask good questions, be a good listener, and like truly listen to what they're saying, so that when you come back and it's time for a proposal, you can show them in writing that, hey, I listened to you. You said this was important. Here's my value proposition to you on how I can make your life easier.
Yeah, no, it's great. And what Caleb said there is really specific. And it's when you listen, if somebody tells you this is important to me, like you alluded to, make sure not you don't only point that out, but then, like you said, follow up with a value proposition of saying, okay, Mr. Customer, because you told me that communication is a big importance to you. Here's the account manager that we're going to have internally that's assigned to your account. So that if I'm not
Yeah,
available, Sally's going to be the next level of defense.
yeah,
That way, here's her contact information. Again, if you go to that next level, people are like, okay, yeah, he heard me, and here's what they're implementing to make sure that I'm not going to have a problem with that with
yeah,
when I decide to do business with them.
yeah, for sure.
Now, you are active in the community. I know Big Shots fundraiser or something, as well as some youth ministries. So I wanted to ask you, like, do you have a fondest memory or favorite story for some of the community service volunteering that you've done?
Yeah, so you mentioned the Big Shots event. That's a fundraiser that we do with a local nonprofit, the Factory Ministries in Paradise. And we've done it for 6 years now. So every March, like at the beginning of March Madness, it's basketball themed. They have a gym um, down at their facility, where we get different business owners, individuals, friends, people from church to sign up a shooter that's going to shoot 100 foul shots that day. And they're going to get pledges ahead of time to give like an amount per shot made or a flat amount. So they show up that day. We have everybody staggered throughout the day. There's food. You can do tours of their facility. There's giveaways, drawings, all of that stuff. Just a really fun day. But we kind of started that from scratch. The first year we were like, hey, we want to get involved with your organization. This is kind of our vision for it, but we have no idea how we're going to do it. Let's just like pick a date and make it happen. And it did start small. We had maybe 12, 15 shooters at most. But at the end of the day, one day, we raised, I think the first year was like $13,000 with no overhead expenses. So all that money went to the factory. So that first year, I just remember being a lot of fun. There was people in the business community where it's like, hey, we can get behind this organization. We can be a little competitive. We can have fun, shooting foul shots. So basketball has always been something that I've been passionate about, and being able to kind of mesh that with business and community and giving back. It's been a lot of fun, and we've seen that kind of grow every year.
So what's the most foul shots you've made, or what's the least amount of foul shots you've made in the 6 years you've done it?
Yeah, that's a good question. We were debating this with some friends that have done it every year, which there's some good shooters that show up. It's all talent levels, so the range is very, very wide. But to answer your question, I'm confident one year I made 91 was my
Whoa!
top, 91 out of 100. And then I've been slowly declining. This last year, I think I was down to 86.
That's still solid, man. Listen, 80. That's top. You know what? Listen, NBA scouts, if you listen to this, Caleb still got game. You might not be able, you might not be able to cover anybody in the NBA. You might just get destroyed. But
Yeah.
if they need like the guy at the end of the game to make a couple of foul shots, maybe they look your way.
Hey, if there's a technical foul and somebody's needed, I'll come off the bench and make a foul shot. But with that, I'll say I haven't won the event yet. So there's some shooters that are better than me that, people show up and they're competitive with it. It's a lot of fun.
Well, everybody out there, next March, so it'll be 2024. If you want to come to the event, make sure you let Caleb know. We'll get some contact information at the end of this, because that's awesome.
That'd be great. Yeah, we had 40 shooters show up this last year. Been able to raise the funds that we raise for them every year, and it gets them into their facility. It builds awareness about what they're doing in the community, and it's a win-win for them, the community, our organization. It's a good time.
You mentioned, kind of tying a passion of yours that you've always had to something else that hit homes. And let's face it, like, you're active in the community. There's some win-wins, not only just for you personally, but also I'm sure for the business and just people seeing you out there.
Yeah.
So what suggestions do you have for somebody that knows they want to get involved, but they're just struggling to find a way to connect either with their community or figure out a way to make sure they make that a priority?
Yeah. I think just get started somewhere. I mean, this was just an idea. Obviously, it's not a new concept, shooting free throws to raise money, but it was just an idea that was kind of started small, and you build excitement around it. You get the right people to help organize it. But it doesn't have to be a big event like that. Like, at Barron, where I work, every year, we offer a paid day off for our team members to go out in the community to an organization that they're passionate about, to just volunteer. So I did that a couple weeks ago at the factory. Just went down and painted and did some handyman jobs around their facility, and mingle with their team, chat about what's going on. So I think that's where it starts, is like, just get out there. All of these nonprofits, organizations, churches, there's always needs for projects or just spending time there. So if you know of one or you're passionate about it, make a call, stop in. You'll probably get put to work at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I was going to say something that resonated with me is, when you give, it doesn't always have to be a receive, right? Like, sometimes you're giving just because you want to help. Sometimes you're giving because you find you're getting a lot from giving, but not necessarily like, okay, because I volunteered in these 3 organizations, I got this many business opportunities, or I met this many potential clients. If you have that kind of mind frame, it's going to be very difficult to find satisfaction out of the time and efforts you put into it. So again, if it's like you said, like, you've always had an interest in basketball, you're able to do that in a way to connect other people to a mission, but you weren't necessarily saying, hey, if I get 20 more shooters out of this, I'm going to get 3 more clients. You did it to build up an event, as well as give to an organization that made some sort of impact on your heart.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, anybody can rally behind that. And then, I think it inspires other people too, of like, we work in a great community. Like, there's a lot of really, really healthy and generous businesses. So the more that we can get out, bless others, look for opportunities around us, like, there's a lot out there that we can do.
Now, I was going to ask people that aren't familiar with the Lancaster community, because it's really where we both are in. It is a very, I would say, a faith-based, conservative. You have Amish, you have Mennonite, a very conservative culture. Your last name isn't maybe one that resonates with a bunch of people like a Stoltzfus or a Miller. So, do you think community involvement has helped you ingrain yourself in the local community in a way that has made a difference for you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just, again, we're in a relationship business, so people want to know about who you are, what you stand for, what's important to you. They want to know that you're going to be around when you need them. So for us and for me, it's something I enjoy doing, but looking for opportunities to just know what's going on. It could be a local fair, it could be a car show, it could be a golf outing, which I'll golf, but I'm not a good golfer that you want on your foursome to go out. But stuff like that, it's like, just get involved, do things, meet new people, try to find needs around you.
Yeah, no, and again, I think to kind of sum that up for us, you don't need to tell people what you do. You need to show people what you do. And if you do that, your actions are going to speak louder than your words. And people are going to resonate with you and say, hey, man, like I saw you at that charity event and I saw that you were willing to give your time. And that's the kind of person I want to work with instead of
Yeah.
having to call somebody up and be like, hey, what organizations are you a part of? Because I want to compare my resume and figure out if there's any synergy there.
Yeah, for sure.
So, somebody that's as busy as you are, I'm not sure how much time you have for reading books, but if you had to pick a favorite, what would it be and why did it impact you?
Yeah, I've gotten better at reading. The last couple of years, I think it's important just to get different perspectives from different people that are in, different seasons of their career or raising a family or whatever it is. One that stuck out to me was the emotionally healthy leader. I think it's Peter Scazzaro. I don't know if you ever read it or not,
I'm not, no.
but it kind of spoke to me. The last couple years, I would say like 2 years ago, I was pretty maxed with like a lot of the things that we've discussed here with like, just feeling the pressure of trying to be a good dad, trying to have quality conversation with my wife after a long day. And then, work career is continuing to grow, get new clients, have more influence, managing people. But that book really challenged me of like, you can be doing a lot of things that look successful outwardly, but we have to be real with ourselves on like where our heart's at. My heart wasn't in a healthy spot. It was like waking up every day just trying to do all the things that I have to do, but I wasn't doing any one thing really good. Just didn't feel like I was living out my purpose. So that book kind of challenged me. He was a really successful leader, outwardly was looking great, having huge influence, but inside like he was hurting. And I
Did
connected
you
with that for sure.
did you eliminate anything that you were doing to try to make a difference, or how did you take that and then what did you implement that made a big impact on you?
Yeah, I think, on the work side, we've been blessed as an organization where we've grown, but eventually you find yourself in a position where you're probably doing a little bit too much and you're probably in a couple seats that you don't necessarily belong in or do really well at,
Hmm.
or you don't get a ton of energy from that. So I was in that position, and we had some tough conversations of, all right, here are some of my strengths, here's my passions. This is kind of where I would see myself going the next couple years to continue to benefit the business and get to a healthy spot where I feel like I can balance it all. So we did that, and it's kind of been a journey, but that's definitely given me some life there of just having those real conversations of like, I can do all of that, and that's okay, but I don't think long term that that's sustainable if I want to continue to pour into my family and community and do all of those things that are really important to me.
Yeah, what you bring up resonates with me. In the industry that I'm in, material handling, forklift equipment, and I tell my sales guys, are you going to go out and fix a customer's problem? Meaning, hey, if their lift breaks down and they call you, are you going out with your tools, diagnosing the issue and fixing it? And 99% of the time, the answer is no.
Yeah.
Now they want to be in the loop because they have certain customers that they want to make sure are getting taken care of, and I respect that. However, and a lot of times you are the buffer between the people that actually are going to fix the problem and your customer waiting extra long period of time from seeing somebody get to the site. And
Yeah.
so, I think, and this is how I am, I'm a control freak. So it's hard for me to relinquish some of the items that I have a hard time doing. However, you kind of alluded to, like, there's certain things you have that are strengths or certain things that maybe aren't as good. And I'm not a handy person. So if somebody called me and fixed their forklift, I wouldn't be their guy. So if I'm the buffer between a
Yeah.
technician showing up and the customer getting what they're asking for, which is a call to have somebody follow up. That's an area that I think people need to look at. Now, you might not be in the material handling business, but if you are creating some unnecessary steps in a process to get a resolution for somebody that is in that seat, that's going to be able to make what needs to happen either happen quicker, or they enjoy that process that isn't something you enjoy,
Yeah.
evaluate that and figure out ways to alleviate that from your pain. Because the guys that were complaining, like, hey, all these customers are calling, they have problems. Like, guys, that's the nature of our business, man. We fix problems. So
Right.
if you think that's not going to happen tomorrow, you're not really thinking about that. You just don't want to be the guy that's getting that call every day because it's bringing your energy down. You want to go out and sell things. So
Yeah.
kind of internalize that and think about that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And my wife was a huge part of that process too. Like, she's been so supportive with work stuff, and I think that's the key to a lot of our success at work is like stability at home, and the way that our spouses support us and listen to us and encourage us in different areas. um, if there's instability and chaos at home, obviously that's naturally going to come into work as well and have a negative effect. And it's not realistic to say that you can eliminate that and come into work every day with like a clear mind and a focused mission. But I think, I wanted to say that too, is like all the books are great, but if your relationship with your spouse isn't in a good place, there's going to be, more struggles than positive stories to share.
No, listen. I think all I'm not going to speak for all men or for all women. I'll just say all people can resonate with that. And yeah, there's definitely simple things you can do to try to make you a hero at home. Because at the office, if you're a hero and you're not a hero at home, like you said, it doesn't matter, man.
Yep. Yep.
If you had to give some advice to somebody that he was either struggling in sales or thinking about getting into sales, what would you say?
Um, I think, be yourself. I think in sales, sometimes there can be this idea that you have to look or sound a certain way to be successful. I think that's something that I've had to kind of settle into as well, is like, I've have certain gifts and strengths and have certain weaknesses and areas that, I may struggle in when it comes to work or sales, and just being real with yourself and using those strengths to your advantage. You're not going to connect with everybody, but there's opportunity to tell your story and use your strengths to help other people out. So I think that would be one of my encouragements.
I think one of the things that you have a likability factor about you that's just humble and comes across really well. So I think the people that you work with and the clients that you have and the community that you're in, it meshes well with the person that you are. I'm not saying you wouldn't be successful in certain parts of New Jersey, but again, it might be more of a difficult fit for you just because it might not feel as natural. So if there's people out there that they're either in an industry that just doesn't feel right, or maybe it's just a whole geographical thing. Maybe you went to college somewhere, or maybe your family moved when you were a kid, or something happened to put you in a spot and it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
If you don't have to stay somewhere, whether it's a company or whether it's a location, really think about that, pray about it, whatever you need to do. But
Yeah.
I would tell people, like, get unstuck. Like, don't feel like that has to be the rest of your life. If it doesn't feel natural, if it doesn't feel right,
Yeah.
don't stay there forever.
Yeah. Yeah. And be patient with it too. Like, I think about the beginning of my career. I didn't, insurance was not in my family. I went to college for business and got into the insurance industry and saw it as an opportunity. But it's been a process. Success does not come immediately. You really have to build a name for yourself where, you're trustworthy. You're somebody that is going to do what they say they're going to do. That takes time to kind of build your network a little bit. So be patient with it, whether it's sales or any job. Like, I'm always envious of the people that get into a certain industry and just kill it, and like it looks so easy to them. But I would say that's not the norm. A lot
Yeah.
of times you got to put your head down. You got to stay consistent. You got to stay humble. I think that's really important because there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. And yeah, stick with it.
Cool. And I don't know. I guess you're probably not a social media star. You're somebody who's pretty humble and quiet, I guess, overall. But where can people find out more about you and some of the cool stuff that you're involved in?
Yeah, so the Barron Insurance Group is the agency that I work for. We have an office in Mannheim, and then my office is in Gordonville. We do personal and
And
business
let me
insurance.
interrupt you real quick. For people that don't know those two towns, that's in Pennsylvania, because I'm sure there's some people that might have to Google
Yep, yep.
that.
If you're looking for out of state, I might be able to help you, but we're pretty. I would say we're a regional insurance agency, deal
Yeah.
with clients mostly in Pennsylvania. Um, Other than that, yeah, don't do a whole lot of the social media stuff, but you'll find me at home probably playing wiffle ball or shooting basketball with our kids.
Well, no wonder, man. See, that's the problem. You're not on social media, so that's why you're so good at shooting foul shots. That's where people have to reflect. If you're on your phone too much, there's a reason why Caleb's up there striping 91 of 100, and you're
Hey,
out there hitting 32. So that makes sense.
it would have been a lot more helpful if I was a good free throw shooter when I actually played basketball in high school and college, but for some reason that didn't really trigger till later in life.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, sometimes the best things that come to you are later in life, so that's all good, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Again, I know you got a busy family, so thank your wife Lindsay for allowing you to take the time to do this episode. I'm very confident that there's people out there that can resonate with your story and some of the challenges and things that you need to work through on a daily basis just to sometimes survive the day and sometimes just love life, right? I mean, there's a
Yeah.
little bit of balance for both of it.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate you having me, and I love what you're doing with this, and let me know how I can help.
Absolutely. Well, guys, everybody that tuned in, another great episode, another great guest. This was Jeff Hillen with Caleb Stiger, Selling Stories. Everybody make it a great day.